Well, Casey, we wanted to end today by hearing from a number of students about what they are feeling and experiencing at the beginning of this school year. And we put out a couple calls for responses in previous episodes and got just a ton of great responses back in our inbox.
Yeah, and thanks to all of the students who sent us in their thoughts despite being massively hungover from the party at the frat last night.
Yes, thank you for taking a break from vaping and collecting Labubus to write in. So we should say this is not meant to be a scientific sampling. It's just what a number of young people who listen to Hard Fork around the country and around the world are seeing and experiencing. So we're going to play some clips and talk about them.
All right, this first clip comes from Keith, a student at Princeton who is using AI to connect dots and fill in the gaps from professors' explanations. And let's hear what he has to say.
Hey, Kevin. Hey, Casey. Huge fan of the podcast. I'm a computer science student, so sometimes we have math classes or math proof classes, and sometimes professors will often skip over the derivation of a proof, or they'll kind of hand wave away the intuition behind certain equations, and they'll be like, hey, here's the equation, go use it. And you're kind of left trying to reverse engineer whatever the professor wrote on the board or the notes that you took. You're looking back at it 3 weeks later trying to prepare for an exam, and you're like, how did they come up with this? I found AI to be really helpful for kind of connecting the dots between different moments of clarity that you might have gotten when you were sitting in lecture, or were focused and then unfocused one time. So you kind of use AI to fill in the gaps between when you kind of lost focus or lost understanding. Yeah, thanks.
I mean, here's where I get so jealous of the students today. How many times was I sitting in a lecture class and the professor said something that I didn't totally understand? I wasn't going to raise my hand and stop the whole lecture. I just wanted a little bit of extra information about something. Now you can just ask a chatbot right there on your laptop in the middle of class and kind of catch up. So that feels like a superpower to me.
Yeah, and I also think it points to the very real limitations that many human professors and teachers have. And I love and adore teachers and professors, and some of the people who have changed my life the most have been teachers. But there's also a large distribution of skill among teachers, right? There are people who are amazing researchers, but not very good at actual teaching.
Or I'll give another example, Kevin. There are people who are hired to be football coaches who all of a sudden were teaching my high school chemistry class. And let's just say that was not their forte.
Right. So without denigrating the amazing teachers out there, I just think this is a good use of chatbots. I think often when we talk about AI in the classroom, we're sort of comparing the tools that exist to some sort of platonic ideal of the world's best, most patient, most helpful classroom instructor. And in reality, all professors and teachers have gaps in their knowledge and abilities, and it's useful for AI to come in and help fill in the gaps.
All right. This next one comes to us from Greta. This is a little bit of a longer clip. Greta's studying at MIT, where she's studying AI and business analytics. And she gave us an overview of her study workflow, which includes some vibe-coded automation. So I'm interested to hear about this.
Hey, Kevin and Casey. My name is Greta, and I'm an incoming junior at MIT. I have 3 kind of interesting AI use cases that I use pretty much every day when I'm at school. So first of all, most of our homework assignments are given in what's called problem sets. And so sometimes when I look at a problem set and I have no idea where to start, I'll upload it into Gemini and then ask it to explain the background concepts of a given question. So instead of telling me how to approach the problem, it'll be okay, you need to know this part of, for example, graph theory, so that I have more of a background understanding and then I can approach it myself. And then secondly, I was studying for an optimization test in the fall, and I realized that they had given me a full list of all the topics that were going to be covered on the exam. And I had all the lecture notes. So I put all of that into Perplexity, and then I told it to go through the topics one by one, explain everything I should know for my exam, and then quiz me on that topic until it was sure that I understood it, so that it wouldn't move on before I was ready. And then finally, one cool recent use case I found is that I take my notes on Notability, which is just an iPad app, but then I have them backing up to Google Drive. And so I had Gemini write a Google Apps script that every time my notes back up to Google Drive, it will take all of the notes, upload it into Gemini, and for each note, it'll generate a full summary of everything that was covered in that lecture or recitation. And then it creates a 10-question quiz so that I can make sure I'm still understanding the material, say like a week later. And then it puts that into a Google Doc and puts it back in my Google Drive folder. So that's a little bit more of a complicated use case, but I found it extremely useful. And honestly, Gemini kind of did it all itself. It walked me through how to create that integration. So that was really cool. Anyways, love the show. Thank you so much.
What do you think, Kevin?
I think this is amazing. I mean, I think this is just an example of how we often just sort of underestimate how good students are going to be at using this stuff on their own. I think in a lot of schools, they have it exactly backwards. I think students should be teaching the teachers how to use these tools effectively for things like studying and preparation for exams. This is obviously a very sophisticated MIT student who's like familiar with this stuff. But this is the kind of stuff I'm hearing from students at all levels, that this is just very helpful for them in creating little mnemonic devices to remember things, or sort of a spaced repetition style app that can be used to teach themselves. So I just think like very self-motivated and capable people like Greta are just going to like zoom ahead in their classes using these tools.
Yeah, I think you nailed on the important thing, which is that for a student who wants to learn, AI is maybe one of the best things that has ever happened to them, right? She clearly wants to understand the material. She's not just saying, give me the answer. She's building systems that ensure she is learning the material, that will not let her move forward until she learns the material. And that's something that her professor was not going to do for her, right? So to me, like, this is the template. If you are a college student right now, I would listen to what Greta just told us and try to be thinking, how could I put similar systems into my own life? Because I think you're going to do great in your classes. And on the flip side, though, if you don't want to learn, then these tools really cannot help you. And so I think that as we continue to talk about the role of AI and education, we have to be thinking about that motivation piece, because I really think that that's the difference between success and failure. And that probably is a problem that long predated the arrival of AI.
100%.
All right, this next one comes to us from Claire, a student at Fordham University. Let's hear this.
Hello. My name is Claire Krieger. I'm going to be a senior at Fordham University this year. I don't personally really like AI. I think it just creates too many corner cuts. Like you gave the example of book summaries, and yes, we will talk about books in class, and I will not have read them, and I will look at the ChatGPT summary, and I'm not proud of it, but it is like way too easy, I think. However, a specific example of when AI was used, or not used, but used against like me as a student, that I think is pretty telling is I wrote an essay for a class once, and my teacher accused me of plagiarizing because I had a quote that was similar to another student's, and I'm pretty sure she thought I used AI to write my paper because of that. I think AI in education is terrifying because it leads to examples like these where people are wrongly accused of using it. It happened to one of my friends with one of her professors as well. She was accused of using AI when she didn't on a paper. So yeah, it's my 2 cents. Thank you.
I'm glad Clara said this, because I think this is the flip side of the ones that we've just heard from the students who are using AI for helping themselves learn new things and draw new connections between their knowledge. There is a lot of corner cutting going on out there using AI. There's a lot of people cheating their way through school and depriving themselves of education. And the second thing she brings up is really important too. There are a lot of falsely accused students out there whose teachers and professors are saying you wrote this using AI. And I will say this every fall. I think this is an absolute travesty that these companies are still selling these tools to schools and universities. They do not work. Every study of these tools shows that they generate huge numbers of false positives. You cannot ask an AI system, did you generate this, and have it give you a verified, reliable answer. And there is no way at scale to determine whether something was written by AI or not. There just isn't. And I worry that that message is not getting across to the educators of America because we still hear stories like this all the time.
Well, is there any good solution to the cutting corners problem that Claire brings up?
I mean, I think it's just about reinventing the class. My intuition is that you just have to assign work differently and evaluate work differently. Because if people are able to do things like just use a summary of a book from ChatGPT rather than actually doing the reading themselves, my assumption is they will. And by the way, that use of AI is not new at all, right? When we were in college, there was Spark Notes. Before that, there was Cliff Notes. Like, this has always been possible for students who want to skip the reading. Have I used Spark Notes in my life? Yes. Am I proud of that? No. But I think any realistic take on AI in education has to account for the number of students who are just overworked. They've got too much going on. Maybe they don't feel like reading the book. Maybe it's not a very good book. And so they're just going to cut corners.
Yeah. All right, this next one comes to us from Pia, a student studying in Germany. German is not her native language, but she's finding that AI has been very helpful in translation.
Hi, Casey. Hi, Kevin. My name's Pia, and I'm an American living in Germany. I've been applying to master's programs here, and ChatGPT has been super helpful from the start. It's been really important to me to do my own work in the sense of my ideas. But given that I'm not a native speaker, ChatGPT is so helpful to just translate or to sort of smooth those rough edges of my German. The biggest thing where it was really a godsend was I had to write a 10-page essay, which I did in English with all of my own research and thinking and, no ChatGPT there. But then I used ChatGPT and the help of my girlfriend to translate it. On the other hand, I'm very cognizant of the idea that cheating is cheating yourself. And so I don't want to shortchange my learning. And I feel like, especially once I really start, I will have to find those boundaries for myself.
Casey, I love this one because this is an argument that I've had many times with my sort of more worldly polyglot friends. I have been saying for years now that it was a waste of time for me to try to learn another language, in part because I wanted to justify the fact that I only speak one language, but also because I just assumed that we would have these earbuds that just magically translated between every language using AI. And that actually exists now. You can pretty much travel anywhere in the world and talk into your phone and have the phone translate for you into whatever language of the country you're in. But my polyglot friends push back on this and they say, you idiot, you absolute rube. The reason to learn another language is not purely to communicate in that language with people who are native speakers. It's because you are learning about a culture. You are flexing your brain in different ways. You are depriving yourself by using the easy out of these translation apps. So where do you come down on this question of AI and language?
Well, I would agree with your polyglot friends. Of course, that refers to a person who's in a relationship with more than one glot. Learning another language, as you say, is not just about communicating. It is effectively a different system of thinking. I took 5 years of Spanish, so I can get by in Spanish, and it's a beautiful language. And there are just certain words and phrases that evoke concepts that don't exist in English. And so you're not going to get that with your AI earbud, bro. Okay? Okay? So as far as, what does Pia do? Look, if she's living in Germany and going to school there, I imagine some of those rough edges are going to get sanded off of her German, and she's going to start writing more fluently in German as time goes on.
There's probably a German word for the feeling that AI is slowly taking over your cognitive capabilities.
Yeah, we should ask the AI what that is. All right, and finally, Vikram Ananta has sent in a video, and let's take a look at that.
Hey, Kevin and Casey. I'm Vikram. I'm a CS student at the University of Michigan. And it's kind of gotten to a point where AI is just so normalized. It's like the internet or like a calculator. You kind of just have to use it. I mean, obviously there's some classes where they don't want you to use it and they explain why, but for like a CS project, like I try not to use it because I want to be able to learn, but some of my friends use tab to autocomplete in Cursor and it's just so good. Or like generating a presentation from scratch. And it's really just gotten to a point where if you're not using AI, you're kind of just behind. Like in non-graded things like clubs or like organizations, they want you to use AI because it's like productive. So yeah, it's just everywhere and you kind of can't not use it.
So AI is ubiquitous now, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, this feels true to me. I have spent a bunch of time at schools over the past year or two, and a lot of people tell me what Vikram did, which is that this is just everywhere. It's in the water. It's part of every student's workflow now, and good luck telling them they can't use it. I think it also gets to a point about equity in schools. Another thing that I've come to believe is that schools should be paying for premium subscriptions for students because the premium subscriptions to these products generally are better than the free versions. And if some of your students have the means to buy the paid versions and some don't, then the students with access to the paid versions are just going to have better answers and better homework and more queries to give to the models before they run out. And I just think that puts your sort of lower income students at a tactical disadvantage. So I haven't gotten a lot of uptake on that suggestion, but I do think that is increasingly an issue.
Yeah. I mean, what Vikram's comment here makes me think about, though, is just the risk that some of our other students have talked to us about today, which is, yeah, AI is everywhere. Yeah, you can use it for many or even most of the tasks that you're being assigned. But at what point are you leaning so hard on the AI that you are not learning the stuff that you went to college to learn? I've been thinking a lot as we've been listening to all these comments about what is the point of college. Honestly, I went to school to study English because I loved reading novels and to study journalism because I wanted a job. And I think I probably would have relied heavily on AI in school as long as I still felt like I was going to get a job at the end of that and be pretty good at that job. So if Vikram thinks that he's using AI in a way that's going to make him really good at computer science at the end of his time there, then I think he's probably fine. But if all he's really learned at the end of 4 years is how to autocomplete, he may have some regrets at the end. Vikram, I'm sure you're not going to do that, but other people might.
Yeah, put some respect on Vikram's name.
Vikram is great. Vikram is great. But other people are going to be using that autocomplete a lot, and I do worry about what the net result of that is.
Yeah, and I think the thing that this makes me think about is like if this is really a transition that is happening at a lot of schools where students are just kind of auto-completing their way through their degrees, then that may not be very durable as a model because pretty soon the AI won't need the human to start them off. It'll just sort of do all the coding. And so I think that's what we're worried about is not that today's students will be cheating themselves out of an education, but that we are headed towards a future in which all of this sort of becomes moot because the jobs that people are going to college to train themselves for no longer exist or no longer exist in anywhere near the current number. So that's what I think about when I think about Vikram's description of college just being sort of full of AI is like, are we just sort of at a halfway point on the continuum where these tools still can't really like use themselves. They still need the students to sort of guide them along. And will all of that just sort of be rendered obsolete by just better and more capable systems?
Well, the only way we'll know is if we continue to listen to the Hard Fork podcast. So everyone at campuses all across the country, make sure to stay subscribed. And we'll tell you when we've crossed the terrifying point of no return.
And on a more serious note, thank you to all the students who wrote in. Really fun to hear from you all. And good luck with your fall semester.
Hey, that's the end of this clip. If you liked what you saw, head on over to our page and subscribe, and you can get the full podcast. We do a show like this almost every week on tech and the future. Head on over there now and subscribe.